relating to you. And there's, we had a bunch of different stories here, and so to have everybody involved, I think that's why 57% is because they saw Bridget Wood, they saw Tammy Cersei, they saw Brianna, they saw
Jackie Angel.
Jackie Angel, they saw Jeff Williams, they saw
everybody.
Just all kinds of different 788 active. So thank you.
Yeah.
Well,
we appreciate you.
For my part, you're welcome. There were many, many other people that did all kinds of amazing things as well.
Right, so let's watch here. We had done some videos for the 788. Let's watch this one here.
For many years, I worked as an environmental activist, fighting coal and also pipelines. And in all of that time, meeting hundreds of people who were sick because they had been exposed to toxins, I really started to realize the huge number of people across the state who could benefit from medical cannabis. And so when I saw that there was a spark of a movement that looked promising and, something was really going to happen and it was just beginning, I jumped in. The effects of medical cannabis, the use of medical cannabis for pain, nausea, post-traumatic stress, it's an antiemetic, antioxidant. I mean, there's so many things that you can do with medical cannabis and then turning it into nutritional cannabis as well. And once we have legal access to cannabis, we can benefit from multiple layers of therapy.
Yeah, just go to me and share it right there.
Take it in several different ways and benefit medicinally. And so having access is extremely important to even begin to get started going down that road. I am 788.
There you go. You just said you are. I am 788.
788.
That was the. I can read lips pretty good there. We're learning that. We got to get it piped into our headsets.
Yeah, when I met her, she was like, "I want to talk about the actual natural, just whole plant, Carrie. I want to talk about it." And so I've kept that in my head, and I was like, I've talked to Larry about it several times. I'm like, I got to get her in here from Tulsa.
Yeah.
So here you are.
So yeah, tell us a little bit the 788s just real quick. Tell us from where you'd like to start. Like how does Bridget Wood all of a sudden become a cannabis consumer?
How did I suddenly become
well, how does that enter into, because you don't find too many people that are eating raw cannabis out there that are.
Okay, well, boy, that's a really long story, but what really happened is, I got really sick, and as I got sicker, I guess I just kind of fell into that trap. And so if my physicians would tell me to take something, and as I had rheumatoid arthritis coming on, I was living in extreme pain, and so I was pretty desperate to control that pain. And so I did take the steroids and muscle relaxers and the anti-anxieties and all of that. And before long, I was on like 22 medications. And I went from being, like a normal kind of mom size to, being 225, 230 pounds.
You.
And me. And I literally, my husband looked at a picture of me the other night and he was like, "Honey, I'm sorry, but I don't even recognize you. I can't look at you from then to now and see that you're the same person."
Wow.
So I did. I basically degraded or degenerated to a point where I was basically bedbound. I used a walker every day because the pain was so bad just to stand. So in my knees and hips and ankles and all of it, it was just too painful to stand and walk. And so I used a walker and a wheelchair, and for a long time, I even had home health coming in, and they would bathe me and all of those things. I had a potty on the side by the side of my bed, and that is the reality, and it's not cool to talk about, and it's not sexy, and that's just how it was. And so I got, to that point, and I felt like, that it's kind of a weird thing. My bedroom is downstairs in my house, and I just felt like I was just going to die down there, and everybody else in my family, my husband would go to gigs, and I would have to be home, and my kids would go be doing things, and I was home, and I couldn't go out and be a part of the world and have friends and do fun things, and I like to hoop. I'm a big hoop dancer, and so I would lay there in this bed, that heavy, and I would watch hooping videos and dream about, all these things that I wanted to do, and my husband's an advanced climber. He had, in the past, he had a lot of mountaineering, certifications, mountain rescue and things like that. And so he would, he took the kids out to climb, and I would watch them climb, and I'd be sitting there, watching them, and I didn't get to take a part in it. So that's a horribly long story.
No, that's the reality of it, because that's the truth. That's your truth, and that's.
So can I back up into
Yeah,
a little bit of that?
yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so the thing about this that really makes me angry is I had a doctor. My mom is here, by the way. So I'm gonna kind of look at her sometimes, because y'all, I have like the coolest mom. You have no idea. And when people say thank you to me, I really have to say thank you to my mom, because you all really have no idea what she did to help past 788.
Yes, that's a beautiful thing.
So the thing is, though, is I went to this doctor, my main doctor, because I was having all this pain, and I was starting to have like limited mobility, and I worked in a greenhouse as a grower. And so I had really physical work to do. And so I was having increasing pain and stuff. And back during that time, yes, I used cannabis. And I also had a really cool boss. I'd be out there taking a break, and he'd walk out and be like, when you get done with that, I need you to go into house 6.
Way to go, boss.
Yeah. So, and we used to be in there and just dream about, like, wouldn't it be cool if we could grow marijuana? Because that's the word we thought we needed to use.
Right.
So in any case, before I go off too far, I had a doctor who knew that I believed in cannabis as a pain reliever. I had no idea of what it could do, but I knew it relieved pain, and I knew it relieved pain for me, and that it was going to be a lot better than taking Loratab, which is what she initially gave me, and it doesn't work for me in any case. It makes me an evil person.
Right.
So, she refused to test me and refused to give me any medication because I believed in medical cannabis. And so because of that, it was like an extra year and a half before I got any actual medication to stop the damage that rheumatoid arthritis causes. And so I took additional damage because she looked down on me for my views for medical cannabis.
And how long ago was that?
7-8 years.
So you were on the cutting edge. You had discovered, you had heard about it around the country, and
I just really felt like if I didn't stick to my guns on that, and I felt like, I questioned myself a lot, and other people kind of were like, maybe but I really believed in it. And so I just felt like it was really important. And I have to say, the thing that really got me going was my friend Lisa Welch brought me this amazing book that explained different herbs that you could use to start to get well and fight
Back to
inflammation.
Eden, or what was it called?
Yeah, no, I don't remember. It's this huge medical book.
Back to Eden is probably the book, and it's the holistic medical guide.
Well, she gave me this huge guide to all of this information, and so I took it with me. I took this big thick book in there to the doctor, and I'm like, well, what about nutrition and what about these herbs and stuff? And she was like, nutrition has no effect on your health.
And they gave her a license to practice
medicine. And then when I
medicine.
left, she was sitting in an office chair in the hallway, literally eating a double bacon cheeseburger.
I love bacon cheeseburgers, but it's probably not the thing you need to be eating in front of patients that are having things like that. And so you didn't give up. You were like, this is my life, right? I'm not just going to, because you seem to be a very strong woman. It's like, I ain't going to take your shit. I'm going forward. I'm going to heal myself, right?
Yeah,
So,
I was definitely going to heal myself. So and one of my sons walked into my house today, and I just made a smoothie, and he has a medical card, so I'm following, like, open your mouth. And and he wouldn't hardly try it at all because he was a victim of my juicing extravaganza.
was that where it basically started? Was I'm going to start juicing and I'm going to do something different?
So that's it. Is I started juicing, and I would do a lot of that stuff with carrots and beets and celery and things. And so they would all complain that it tasted like dirt from the beets. But it was very nutritious. Unfortunately, the thing about that is it's very wasteful. And so I went through this big, long thing where I was making these weird crackers out of the leftovers and chasing my kid around like, here, eat this
Try
cracker.
it. You got to try it.
It's good for you.
So I started doing, the juicing and working on herbs and spices and that kind of thing. Unfortunately, I have a Coke problem that I had to fight. So I drank Coca-Cola for like 3 years, and I just had to get over that. If I wanted to be well, or do I want to drink Coca-Cola? So I had to.
Of course, everybody's like, wait a second. She says, Coke problem.
I think I'm funny.
You led us that way.
I think I'm funny.
She got us.
She got jokes.
She got
even.
us.
Yes. So I can totally relate because sugar is more addictive than, well, I don't know what.
It's the last thing. It's the last thing for me. I've kicked any bad thing I've ever done, except for sugar, and that's just the reality. And I can do pretty good for a few days, and then I get to this point where I'm just like, things are not going to be okay until I get like some sort of a fix. So,
and that's in refined, or does the natural sugars do stuff for you?
I think, well, I do fix it with fruit a lot of the times, but I have a friend staying at the house right now, and he saw me this morning fixing coffee, and he's like, "Whoa, that's a lot of sugar." I'm like, it's just this one cup. So so I did. I started doing the juicing and moving towards whole foods, and started implementing yoga. And of course, I'm a hooper. I have to say that I'm a hoop dancer, and so there's a whole possibility.
Pull up hoop dancing.
Yeah.
Let's check it out. You
Because
got a
when
video
you
of you
first said
doing
it,
it?
I was like, I wonder if
You
she's
don't
got a
even
good
think?
jump shot. But that's not what we're talking about.
Well, let's see what hoop dancing is, because I need to know.
It's very festival.
Haven't you ever been to a dead show?
No,
Yeah.
I can't say I have.
Actually,
The
we're going to
Hoopers.
go to one this summer. You want to go?
I'm
Sure.
down. I'm totally down.
You can come out to the Green Retreat. You can hoop dance out there with us.
I might.
Bring it on.
If I don't have a gig.
You're always so busy.
Let's see.
She's always
How
so
about best
busy.
native hoop dancers in 4K? That might be interesting.
See what they're talking about there. Oh.
Yeah, heck yeah.
Do it.
I don't have that outfit though.
No, the I know a
I
guy
could make
that,
it for
that
you,
does
though.
the LED inserts into
Yes.
the hoops, and
Oh,
then when
yeah.
you get them going, and they make the signals, the little signs, and it's like, wow, rock on. Yeah.
It's even better on shrooms, which
I was
you
going
can
to
now
say
do
that's
in Denver. Good job, Denver.
they were the ones that really kind of got the cannabis going too.
Right. Well, they were the
was
first ones,
Denver.
so it makes sense that they'd be the first ones for.
Washington State was actually first.
Oh,
but,
okay.
Yeah, and then
I beg your
Oregon,
pardon.
but they're all the way so far out there, and that you don't really hear about it. Whereas Denver was
Yeah.
like, that's weed legal, and then they just did the psilocybin yesterday.
Yeah. That's
Decrimin it.
Yes.
So it's still not legal, but it won't go to prison.
I used the wrong word.
That's all right. That's in
And
case
see,
anybody
I'm-
at home
It's
is
one
like,
step
yeah, we're getting legal
closer.
So
shrooms, and not
I
really.
say that, and somebody's like, "You're like, she said that," because I am like the queen of using the correct word, because words are weapons, and we have to be careful to never perpetuate a negative stereotype in the cannabis industry because it does matter for people's lives.
It does, and
It's
that's
true.
one of the free things. Like you were just talking about 7-8 years ago. This doctor was totally against your using of cannabis. And
Oh, you know, in my health records, it says that I'm a cannabis abuser. I saw it 2 days
how
ago.
do you abuse cannabis? You threw out the roach. Is that what they're accusing you? You threw out the roach. That's cannabis abuse.
I didn't use it to its full potential.
That's it. That's the. And so I wonder if they're re-evaluating their medical advice because times and things have changed in those 7-8 years, and you look fantastic. Like
I feel pretty dang good. I have a huge change, a huge shift in my quality of life. And here's something.
Because there's no wheelchair, there's no walker that you came in with. Like you
came in under
walked
my own
over here.
power.
That's it. You had a bunch of crap in your hands, like you
And
were carrying groceries.
I had to go to the bathroom, so I ran 2 restaurants over and ran back because I didn't want to walk back there. Let everyone know I had to use the restroom.
Oh, that's all right. We're all family here. But that's pretty good. And then so when did in that 7-8 years? Okay, so we're progressing there. You're done. You're sick and tired of being sick and tired, and you start juicing. You start doing that. What was it that really like? All of a sudden, you turn that corner, and you're like, man, this is going to happen for me.
It wasn't like that.
No.
So here's another unsexy story. Do you want to hear a really unsexy story? I almost died from opioid-induced constipation.
Okay.
So I had
Which you would not be the first one.
right. So I got to this point where I couldn't eat, and I was losing a lot of weight, and I suddenly lost like 60 pounds, and things were really going bad, and I got through that, and I got off the fentanyl patch using cannabis during a time of prohibition.
Fentanyl
So
patch.
it was not a elegant removal of fentanyl from my life. It was very, very difficult. And, of course, during Prohibition, you had to hope that someone was going to show up with something. And, it didn't really matter what it was. You just
Right.
needed it, and you
Right.
were that desperate. So I didn't have anything like FICO or anything. I had Benadryl and cannabis when I was lucky, and a lot of willpower. And my life fell apart, and it was horrible. So having, right now, I'm working to go off of morphine. And so now I have cannabis, and I have access to FICO, and I have nutritional cannabis, and I have edibles, and I have, I can make my own massage oil in my house, and, all of those things. And so I have, a much more positive outlook this time, working to leave morphine,
Yeah.
although my pain clinic once wanted me to go to grief counseling because they said that I really probably wasn't ever going to get off opiates. So I'm working to defy them.
Grief counseling. So because they're afraid you might have to say goodbye to opiates, or
No,
what's the
they
grief?
were, they were saying that they didn't think I was going to be able to achieve the goal that I have set for myself due to the damage I take. But see, here's the thing. Can we talk about THCA? Because we're getting into all this negative stuff.
I was going to say,
I'm
because they
super
don't know
excited.
Bridget Wood. That's the. So there's the bad part of that's the black part of the
It got
story.
really bad.
Now here is the rising from the ashes, and we're going to change our lives part.
Yeah.
Is the rocking
So
part.
so here's the thing. Is it doesn't even matter how I got to this point.
Right.
But the answer really, in addition to a multi-level approach of healthy behaviors, which we can talk about later, is that THCA, which is raw cannabis, whole plant cannabis, it's the acid form of THC and also CBDA. So they have not had heat applied.
Right.
So there's no degradation of the cannabinoids, the chemical compounds. There's 101.
So there's a lot of them in there.
So and we don't have them all mapped out, and we don't know exactly what they all do. So I don't know why we would degrade any of them yet. So that's my whole point. THCA is an antioxidant, a neuroprotectant, a neuroregenerative. So it's very important that we eat it, and we should eat it every day. And honestly, it's my belief and my hope that, you know, the people a little past us will not think anything of, you know, cannabis juice in the school system, in your lunch program, raw cannabis in their diet, in the school lunches. Raw cannabis is a solution for starvation and malnutrition. In other countries, it could be a huge benefit. And
amino acids. We talked amino acids earlier, right? It's got all the amino acids to sustain life.
So yeah, I could let me. I have all these notes here, which I'm not the most fabulous public speaker in the world, so we have to pretend like we're all friends.
Absolutely.
So, okay, so raw cannabis would have all of your omegas, your 3, 6, and 9. So since it's in there, and you're not getting it out of fish oil pills, you don't have to worry about methylmercury bioaccumulation. So you don't have to worry about that triple filtered and all of that. And there's no carbon miles, and then there's no sustainability issues or cruelty because you didn't kill a fish and smash it.
I feel so sorry though when we cut the plants down though. It's always a sad moment.
Oh my God, you're going to be my medicine, and I love you. Thank you so much. Yeah. I'm like talking to them. And all that. So raw cannabis, and you know, in addition to it, you know, it's a superfood, and it contains calcium, magnesium. It's a kind source of protein and fiber. Beta carotene, minerals. It has basically everything it needs to sustain life.
Right? You can live off cannabis seeds.
Yes.
For your whole life, there, Miss Chronic.
I'm
man,
just
we get you a
saying.
big old sack of cannabis seeds there.
Yeah.
Start munching on those.
It's extremely potent. It's nutrient dense. It has the most phytochemicals of any plant on the planet.
So how much should you eat a day?
Well, okay, so Dr. William Courtney, he's really the pioneer of cannabis juicing, which I don't like the word juicing. We don't juice.
You extract, or what is
I just add it straight in there.
Dr. I don't William, what's his name?
Dr. William Courtney. Mm-hmm. He is just amazing. So what all I have found on a dosing for that is somebody that he had been working with who she had just arbitrarily chosen an amount as 2 cups. Now, we live in Oklahoma. She lived in California, and she had some outdoor grow. And of course, if anybody has seen cannabis growing outside, there's a great deal of plant material if it's growing like that. Mm-hmm. So I could imagine that she had just an almost unlimited supply. I feel pretty good if I get like about a half a cup a day in my smoothies, and that's what I'm doing is I'm putting it directly into a smoothie because I don't want to lose anything. And so what I like the most is the more tender parts of the plant, the sugar leaves, you know, where it's like super concentrated in the buds. And so I'll do that. And when, you know, when we have home grow, you know, people are you grow your plants for different reasons. And so the people that are using it to grow the big buds to smoke or to convert to process into something else, you could also hold back a few plants and kind of intentionally defoliate to eat to keep them going.
Like basil, like having basil in the kitchen.
Kind of like that. Kind of have a few that are intentionally like that. And then the way that I trimmed them, the ones that I had chosen that to eat, we had it set up where they were going to grow a lot of little popcorn buds.
Yeah.
And then I froze them. And so then that way I can have a few of the little buds every day for some more of those little super concentrated stuff, because you know we can only store so much, you know, at home at a time, so we have to be really careful that we remain compliant.
Right, because there's a laws against how much ibuprofen you can have in the house too, right? Oh
well,
no,
there
isn't.
actually should be no law restricting our use of the cannabis plant.
I'm right there with you. Now let's when you take that right off the plant and your THCA, you don't let it cure, you don't let it do anything like that. You freeze it right away and then you eat it. Do you avoid the psychoactive effects when you do that because it is still in that?
Right, it is non-euphoric, and I can hear my friend Dave like yelling in the background in the dark. So you really should deal with your cannabis in this situation with the least amount of light possible, but I don't know how I could do that in the dark, but that would be what he would be saying.
It's, I guess, a flashlight or something? I don't know.
It's not as, not full sun. Don't leave your plant out in the full sun. Don't ever, stick it in a windshield or whatever in a baggie because it'll decarboxylate even if it's raw.
Right.
Because the heat.
So yeah, and when you make smoothies, you can think about that. The heat and time cause decarboxylation, and then also citric acid and vinegars can do that too. So if you make salad dressings and things like that, which I do, like a mango salsa salad dressing kind of thing, and it has like lime and stuff, and by the time you have that raw cannabis, but it has the lime and the mango and everything, there's a little psychotropic effect there.
Right.
It can be. And if you leave it in there for like 5 days in your fridge,
you're going to,
yeah. It's
so basically just cut and eat. That's pretty much where you need to go. If you can do it in the dark, great. That's the shout out to you, Dave.
We're a headlamp.
That's it. That's the, or
the goggles with the lights on them.
The little green lamp that you wear inside the garden when you're in there during flowering so you don't seed off.
So you started to hit on a very important point, and that is that it is non-euphoric. So you can have this raw cannabis and literally be driving down the highway because you have complete mental clarity. And so that's something that's really important because they start to talk about those blood tests to determine your level of intoxication.
Mm-hmm.
But see, and I could go in a long way with this, but I could have 2,000 milligrams running in me or even 10,000 milligrams and I'm fine. You should see what I ate. I mean, I had a glass like this big about 3 hours ago of raw cannabis smoothie, and I appear to be fine.
You do. I was going to say, because if I drank a traditional cannabis smoothie about 3 hours ago, I'd be a lot more goofy. I might have the pen sticking out my nose. I might be
I'm
head
goofy all
on
the time
axis.
anyway. So.
Yeah, no. So that's really one of the things that as you were talking, I was like, wow, because it keeps you off from getting that high, and it just gives you the nutritional supplements that your body your cannabinoid system is aching for. Mm-hmm. And so you started chopping it up. You do that in the and how long have you been doing the
raw cannabis?
Yeah.
Okay, so.
Of course, not before they made it legal here.
No, because and that's the absolute truth. I'd never had access. I'd never had access before. So once at home, once our grow got to the point where I could start stealing a few leaves, I found a Ziploc baggie in my freezer, and it has like 4 leaves like this tall, and I saved them. Then I was gonna eat them one day, and I pulled them out. It just that Ziploc came out the other day when I was grabbing a big bag, and I was like, "Oh, wasn't she cute?" I was so optimistic. So it was like I think around November that I started having some, and then really like the last, like the last 3 months or so, it's gotten pretty intense. I guess around Christmas, I really got going good. I had a really bad summer last summer, and so I ended up having major surgeries and having to recover again. So that's what's even crazy. Like you're getting ready to kind of go into that.
Yeah, I'm showing the this is you about to ascend that wall right there. Mm-hmm. You're about to attack that wall, right? Ascend is not a word that you use in wall climbing, right? It's attack the wall.
Yeah.
Now, how much does this physically play into your mentality also in going forward to conquering what's in front of you? Is there a lot of that going on, or am I just reading into stuff like that's like that's a testimony of what you're up against?
Man, climbing is like a whole thing. I used to tell people that I was a fly fisherman, but I think I'm a climber now. I have a real problem with it. And here's the deal is when I'm up there doing that, nobody's going to fix anything else for me but me.
Mm-hmm.
And I really kind of had a big moment of that. My husband and I went out to the Wichitas down by Lawton maybe about 6 weeks ago or so. And that was my first time to actually go up on the rock. And I did. I climbed, 100 feet up. And I have this weird thing with RA, like my teeth move around and everything pops and all that. So my shoulder comes out of its socket. Well, guess where it came out of its socket?
100 feet up.
Mm-hmm. Up with my hand in a crack, and I go like this, and it goes pop. And I have my feet, in little things that are maybe like, I'm hanging on things that are like that big with my toes.
Right.
And you look down, and it's 100 feet down when your husband's on a little ledge with a little tree, holding the rock, holding the rope, looking at you, and then down further is down where the rest of the world is, and that's a lot further. And yeah, I'm up there hanging in a rope with my shoulder popped out of the socket, and I had a moment where I looked down and I could see him, and I knew, it was up to me right then, and it was real, and I was gonna fix this, and I was gonna be okay, and I did it, and then you know what I did? Is I climbed the rest of the way up, and then I went down. And so, yeah, what's happened is since I've started climbing, I told you earlier, I was really nervous. I've always been, I think that was probably the hardest thing when I was on the board of directors of Oklahomans for Health was my public speaking. And what's funny is I was on the news one time, and I had to say endocannabinoid, and I said and I was like, oh my God, what if I say it wrong on TV? And so I wouldn't talk on the news or anything for a really long time. So it was really hard. But what's happened is climbing has done something to me where it's clicked in, where I feel more confident. And yeah, so it's a big deal. It's a big deal to go from riding in a wheelchair to climbing I'm fighting a 5'10", and climbs are graded. They start out kind of like a 5'6", a 5'7", and they're increasingly more difficult. And so I'm getting to some serious ones, and I'm getting to the point where I'm taking private classes and stuff. So
That's awesome. That's awesome. The amazing Bridget Wood coming back from the bowels of hell to ascend the wall. And just, seriously, it's amazing what you've done through a complete array. We talked about that a little bit earlier. Like we're all, everybody knows I'm a weeder. I'm all about cannabis and all that. But at some point, I need to bring in other things into my life that help make it a complete system. Like cannabis is not the cure for everything.
Your protocol.
Right, there you go.
I've established my protocol at this
Okay.
point. I understand what I need to do in order to be well.
Right, right, which is huge.
Speaking
to empower yourself.
of, she's brought this
Oh yeah, what
just
do we got?
amazing amount of things that we're getting ready to learn about over
Yeah,
here.
let's do
I'm
that.
so excited, but we're going to have to probably turn the camera so that she can get her little
I
area
can do
set up.
that. We can get
it all
to
right here.
Tell us about the
Oh, I have a pile of things to talk about.
yeah. You're writing now.
I've been writing for a long time.
Yeah.
I used to write about environmental issues and music, but now as my world has turned to cannabis,
Do they
this
have
is
a
where
website
I'm
here?
at.
Can we go right to?
So, this
Cannabis Oklahoma magazine.
Mm-hmm. Cannabis Oklahoma magazine, and I
See if we
wish
got a site.
I knew the website.
We're going to find it.
Well, that's their email address.
We should have it on the end. Oh, no, it's Gmail. We'll find it. We'll Google it.
Cannabis.
Okay. So I have an article in there from the April issue, and it's kind of funny because it's actually in there twice. And it has a recipe for the cannabis smoothie in here,
Oh,
and
okay.
so it's an article about dietary cannabis in the Cannabis Oklahoma magazine. And then this month's, which I'm in love with the paper, with the artwork. I love all of it.
It's a gorgeous little paper there.
It
I
is.
gotta
It's
say
beautiful.
that they've And I think we've talked to it's
Laura?
another woman. Yeah,
She's very cool.
yeah, no, the women in the world are awesome. That's the
Can I snag back to
besides in cannabis, that's the because
There's
it's
some, I have to say, the truth is that the majority of the front lines on Okie cannabis legalization was the women.
yes.
I mean, you wouldn't.
In the world, that's what makes things happen. Is women make things happen in the world. We're just kind of there to just enjoy the victories and watch football on Sundays, but to just see and I think a lot of it is because y'all moms, like that's what like.
Well, I think about people like Linda Aldridge, and I think she lives out by Eufaula, Oklahoma, and she was, and Dawn Bowling, like they were out there in different parts of the state where they were like the one lady out there,
Right.
and
Getting
and
the
they
signatures.
just didn't quit, and it didn't matter, how hard it was, how hot, how cold, how inconvenient, any of it. I mean, they just kept staying out there. And it was just, it's women like, and at the same time, they all had husbands and dinner and kids and jobs and all kinds of.
Soccer on Saturdays.
Yeah, and they just
the
kept
whole-
on doing it.
We can't. Is it? there
Oh,
must be
here's my article for this month. Oklahomans breaking the chains of opioid abuse.
There you go. And they
Okay.
can find that. Where can they find that magazine at? Your local dispensaries or?
I really don't know yet. This is a new magazine,
Okay.
and Laura is really establishing where all they are,
Right.
and I don't know, and I apologize.
Well, Laura, you got to get a hold of us and come
She
on the
needs to come
show
on.
and we'll talk
She's
about
a really
where you
cool
can get
lady.
the different stuff there because it's a cool magazine. The first time I've seen it, we've talked online for a little bit, and I was trying to get the studio set up before we started rolling a lot, and so we didn't ignore you, Laura. I was just trying to make it timely. But now that we see your magazine, we'll certainly get a hold and
Right, and
go from there.
and I'm gonna do the events page for her. So if people have cannabis events coming up,
like
we
our
can-
green retreat.
yeah,
June
and-
28th,
and
29th, out there at the Lost Lakes. Can we get you out there and talk? You want to give a speech?
If I can, if I don't have a gig.
Okay. Okay. Well,
My husband and I own.
We'll share calendars and we'll
we
figure
have
something
a
out.
we
right?
have a production company,
Oh yeah.
and so I do lighting.
Producing.
We own a stage and
Oh, nice.
PA and
She was
lighting.
the one that got us the hookup for our stage because they had a gig, but she put us in good hands for our stage.
It was another husband and wife team.
Yep.
Those people. And I got to shout out to Riley again, who worked the board that day. The people that they gave us with the stage. That dude was a beast, man. He was so on it all the time. It was Thompson Production, right? Was that the Thomas? Who was the production
know if-
company? Something
I
like
don't
that.
know. It was someone he subbed out to, but it was someone he had a relationship with here locally. But yeah,
Yeah,
They
that
did a
was
great
the-
As
job.
long as you got excellent service at a great price.
it was at a great price. They were definitely not gouging us like a ton
Right.
of other people. I was just like,
Yeah, no, I was really
they did
impressed by
it
the
was,
whole
It was fair.
Chronic Palooza, Miss Carrie, was
It was.
just
I was so
just
excited.
awesome. You did a tremendous
Yep.
job on it, and
You helped a lot of people through
Yeah.
that.
1,100 doctor recommendations.
Can you imagine how many seriously
Oh,
how
my
many
was
people
like,
at home like their lives, it's just an emotional break for
Mm-hmm.
them because that they have resolution and
Mm-hmm.
protection from incarceration and,
Exactly.
And I cried every time I saw a kid go through there.
Oh,
It was like I'm so glad that they've
Mm-hmm.
maybe it's going to help them, maybe it's not, but at least they have access to it that they can. Give
It's
it a
an option to
whirl
try,
and
regardless.
to see Brianna just.
I met this woman, I don't even remember where or anything, and it was in the last maybe week or so, and she was telling me about all of these psychiatric meds that her 11-year-old was on. And I asked her what it was for. I forget what it was, and I was like, well, how about giving her a little bit of Fico every night? And she said, I don't want her to get high.
Yeah.
And I said, well, what about all of the side effects from all of these drugs? Here, let's Google them for a moment. And we did, and she said, maybe it wouldn't be so bad after all. You know, and that's crazy. Why? So your child might giggle a little bit tonight and then sleep better. You know, eat a good breakfast in the morning, and we're going to have a problem with that. That's something to avoid. I don't think so.
What's the opiates doing to your child? There's a shout out to Megan Holt out there, who's Maddie's mother, who they have Zellweger syndrome, and Maddie's a sick little child, and they had sent her home at 2 on hospice, and Maddie's 6 now.
Oh wow!
And so it's and she's got a decent quality of life. She's learned sign language. She's done all kinds of different stuff that they never gave her the chance. And then when they started to refute her by saying, no, you can't give your child cannabis because your child will get high. And she's like, what do you think you're doing with the Valium, all the benzos, all the fentanyl, all that kind of stuff? And to hear her talk is like you put on your shield and unsheath your sword and you're ready to go march with her, because that's and I go back to the moms, like they really drive it home in that kind of stuff. So that's what we're going to do out there, and hopefully you do have a gig, but hopefully you don't have a gig, and you know, it's that double edge right there, and we can talk about it. So let's look at this stuff that we've got here.
Let's check out what
Can I walk
we got
around
going
with
on.
this on me? Am I safe?
A little bit. You can, or you could take that's just a here. You may want to have this. We'll have this closer to. Where do you want to get it set up at?
We can put you right where you were.
Yeah.
You can have
Here, let's
our
just
friend
move some of this
Snoop Dogg.
around. We're gonna put this here.
Oh, you know what? I didn't plug my thing in earlier.
I got this plug in over here, right here.
Okay, so
Give me
my
Your plug in.
Where are
my
you gonna go with it?
ponytail holder broke earlier, so I have to fix my hair.
I'm looking out.
I'm just gonna need to be
I
near the mic,
appreciate that.
too.
I also didn't bring gloves, so, and I'm really funny about food safety and cleanliness. I just got my Serve Safe certification a week or so ago.
You're gonna need to be somewhere near the microphone.
Okay.
So if you can, I can. So where are you gonna?
We're gonna have to grind it right here.
I'm gonna grind it on the grinder.
On the grinder.
We're grinding.
All right, everybody. You don't really realize what's getting ready to go down in here on the grinder.
Yeah, you don't, because I gotta move the camera back there.
Yeah,
Okay, so
we're making a really cool.
we're gonna make a raw cannabis smoothie. So whenever when I get this out, I'm gonna ask you all to turn out the lights.
In the dark.
Are you really?
No.
I was gonna say, I'll turn out the light. You know,
We could turn one off.
You know, they talk all the time about compliance and stuff. You know, that it's really important to set things up so people can, you know, comply with this and live this way. But I can't do this in the dark. So, okay, so this raw cannabis smoothie, I would normally make it using some ice as well. But we don't have ice because I couldn't travel with ice. So we good?
so yeah, tell us what we're seeing now. You got the grinder, right?
do.
Real quick, it's saying you can only your video is blocked. It says, right now. Do we want? I don't know why it says that, but it says that on mine.
On who's?
I tried to go live and they said that, or I tried to do a watch party. It says your video is blocked. Only you can see this message.
Are we still going? Well, it's the watch party that's screwing it.
Okay.
Let's make sure we're still rolling on the.
See. Before we got going crazy, I just want to make sure.
Right.
Let me look up at the grinder. Because we may just need to start it over if it's something crazy going on.
It
Yeah,
says
'cause we
this
don't-
content isn't available right now.
Yeah, there's something going on. It's. I don't know.
I'm live now on there, but
It's a good time to take a drink.
There you go.
Yeah, she's not on the grind. We're not on the grinder at all with her. So we may want to redo it real fast.
Okay.
Just to be safe. I'm not sure what happened.
I wonder where we went off.
Well, 'cause I noticed nobody was on there, and I was like, we usually at least have a few folks watching us.
I know there are people watching. I know I have like 3 friends. And all of
I
them
know.
are
I was like,
watching.
why are we not getting any action?